Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. Finally, it's a Friday, end of the week, and the market is going to be in focus. Can we sustain that broader recovery we've had for most of this week? Even if the Nifty has not done very much, we've had three good sessions for the broader markets. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Surabhi and Nigel. Guys, good morning.
Hi, good morning. You know, it's actually turned. Usually we used to say positive global cues, positive start. Now sometimes I wonder if global cues are negative, maybe it's better. They'll remember that we are a great market as well with our own intrinsic story, right? If the others are not doing too well. But let's see. We have plenty to track this morning.
I like the way you put it, Surabhi. You know, good thought process. And guys, I think we get through Friday today. And then I think next week we have a truncated week. So good times.
We do?
I think
that's a very important cue. I didn't think of that.
Wednesday, right? 26th is holiday.
Yes.
Well, I think let's just get through the day today, and hopefully it's not going to be as bad as what the GIFT Nifty is indicating this morning, right? I mean, maybe there'll be some recovery afoot. But as always, let's start taking it from the top. You know, overnight the session was not all that great. So basically, what the big headline was, of course, Walmart, which reported numbers, and there was a sort of forecast as well, which disappointed expectations. Stock was down about 6.5%, and that took a bite out of U.S. trading. Equities pulled back a little bit. Actually, you know, they sold off and then they pulled back from the lows as well. So we were down about 0.4%, 0.45% on the S&P, Nasdaq, somewhere around there as well. Dollar index, although it was a very low volume traded session, the broader dollar index was down about 0.78%. We are now 106.35. And that, I think, is significantly positive as far as flows are concerned. But I have to say that volumes were thin. So how much should you read into that sort of big fall, big dip in the dollar? I think one has to see. And of course, I mean, the other things are, it's made up of a basket of currencies. The largest weight is the euro. And I mean, you know, the fall in the dollar is not so much about the US, but perhaps at the margin, European currencies looking a little stronger. Now, oil prices at about $76.50 odd cents as of last close. Alibaba, the China recovery continues. Alibaba was up 8% after a beat on third quarter revenues and profits. You know, the gains keep on coming. Hang Seng is up, was up 2.3% as well. The K-Web index, the ETF in the US, was up sharply on the back of course, what stocks like Alibaba, Tencent, etc. did. Just a quick mention on the Russia-Ukraine headlines because they are still continuing. So President Trump's special envoy from Ukraine met with President Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. And then the envoy, Trump's envoy, reportedly declined to have a press conference with Zelensky. You know, they've made it absolutely crystal clear. Both President Trump and Vice President Vance have made it absolutely clear that Ukraine, you agree, disagree, but this is their stance, that Ukraine has been at fault and they need to wind the war down. And of course, I mean, as we've heard, from what we've heard so far, in the negotiations to end the war, to wind the war down, Ukraine does not have a seat at the table. I mean, that's where things are at. Now, Zelensky, of course, said that Ukraine is ready for security agreement with Trump. And we'll see if there are more headlines into the weekend and something concrete emerges. Now, just to circle back to and tie in the levels here, we, of course, have been picking up in the broader markets, even as the Nifty has been flat now for 3 days running. That's why we've been sort of describing the market as a good market, because mid and small caps have been seeing, you know, buying, and lots of stocks are doing well. So we need to break up on the Nifty. We need to break above the high of 23,050. That's the first level. And then we'll get to the daily averages. 23,318 is the 20-day moving average. The support, I guess, is more important, at least this morning as we start. 22,725 is the support for the Nifty. I think the GIFT Nifty is indicating a start about 100 points above where the support lies. Nifty Bank closed lower yesterday. Generally, it's been outperforming out of the two indices. Here, the Nifty Bank support stands at about 48,804. Again, not very far away. And of course, resistance levels, upside levels come in at Wednesday's high, which is 49,628, and then 49,836. All very, very close. Not even 1% is the range, but these are, that's the kind of market we're in. Extremely sort of tight, at least on the bigger indices. In terms of single stocks, there is a lot of action, a lot of activity. GIFT Nifty indicating about an 80-point lower start. Surabhi.
Okay, so the thing is the Asian region is fairly mixed, which is why you're getting that GIFT Nifty down about 81 points as we speak. But some markets are already pulling back. And again, by some, I usually mean the Hang Seng these days, because that market has its own thing going. While other markets are cooling off in step with the Wall Street decline, Japan slightly lower. We saw the implied open for us here. Look at the Hong Kong Hang Seng, 2.5% up. This market's moving on steroids, really. And Taiwan's also, doing pretty well this morning. The markets that are weak include, like I said, the Japanese market, and there's a little bit of red on the Singapore screens as well. So let's see which way we decide to drift. But talking about a couple of important cues, in Japan, we got the inflation data for the month of January. And can you imagine Japanese inflation at 4%? I mean, we haven't seen these kind of numbers for Japan in a long, long time. In fact, it's a 2-year high. That this is the headline inflation number that I'm talking about. Core inflation at 3.2% is also at fairly elevated levels, the highest since June 2023, which is why those calls for further rate hikes in Japan by the Bank of Japan, they are only growing, which is also why the yen has been strengthening against the dollar. We've been speaking about this all through the week. Yesterday in intraday trade, the yen actually fell, the dollar yen, that is, fell below the 150 mark as well. This morning, you're seeing it pull back and it's, it's looking weaker. But that's because yesterday it strengthened to a level below 150. So that's the kind of move that's happening in currencies. In terms of Alibaba, just to carry forward what Prashant was saying, yesterday's numbers are phenomenal. I mean, 240% growth nearly, and that was completely out of the park. It wasn't along with estimates. The actual net income was about 49 billion yuan. The expectation is that it's going to be around 40 billion. So it really blew past estimates, and the US listed stock was up about 8% in after hours trading. And largely this performance, Alibaba says, is because of the cloud business doing really well and the fact that they're accelerating all their investments in AI, and they seem to be paying off as well. So that was a little note on Alibaba. Coming to our fund flow picture here, it's more of the same. Again, a net sell of about 3,300 crores from FIIs. Domestic institutions are more than offset that. The buy number was closer to 4,000 crores from the DIIs. By the way, on the FPI ownership, just a quick sliver of data. These are latest numbers from the National Stock Exchange, and they're very, very interesting. The FPI ownership has continued to decline. Market-wide ownership as well as Nifty 50 ownership. The market-wide ownership is now 17.4%. This is 30 basis points lower than the last quarter. This is as of December end. The Nifty 50 ownership, FPI Nifty 50 ownership is down to 24.3, which is about a 15 basis points decline, again, quarter on quarter. That's not all. If you talk about individual ownership of the Indian market, whether it's through domestic mutual funds or whether it's direct ownership, that has overtaken FPI ownership now, at 18.2%. That's also an important data point. That's the FPI selling. In terms of quarter, Q3 selling versus Q4 selling. Q4 already we have surpassed the Q3 selling. Now let's move to the other interesting data point, that individual ownership of the Indian market has surpassed FPI ownership. When you club mutual funds and the direct participation put together, individuals now own 18.2% of the market, whereas FPIs own about 17.4% of the market. Very quickly, to round it off, some stocks in focus. M&M Financial Services, M&M and Mahindra Life Spaces, two Mahindra Group companies. They're both in the market to raise some equity funding. They're looking at a rights issue of 3,000 crores. That's M&M Financial, and Mahindra Life Spaces rights issue of 1,500 crores. The promoter group has said they have full intention of participating to the extent possible in this rights. And the fight for Religare is finally over. Burmans have the company. They've been designated promoters. So let's see how the stock reacts to that. So some interesting developments coming in. And by the way, I didn't add this, but I could add that PhonePe is looking at a listing. So I'll watch out for a lot of the new age companies as that IPO comes through the street. Let's see if there's some excitement that pops up. But for the time being, we have to deal with these negative cues on the global front, lower markets.
Well, that's right. 11 out of the last 12 sessions actually we've ended lower. But in this week, between the previous day and the next day's close, that is on a day-to-day basis, how much we've moved? Not more than 0.1%. All 4 trading sessions, either up or down. But by the end of the day, it's 0.1% move that we have seen. And dare I say, since we have been underperforming, maybe it puts us in good position to outperform. So let's see how that goes. Well, overnight, we had the US data that was a little bit weakish and some worries on the US economy. Not too bad, right? Because it caused a couple of asset classes to cool off, whether it was the dollar index, whether it was the 10-year yield as well. Both of them did cool off, and Brent crude prices pretty well behaved. Under $80 per barrel, you'll take it. $76.50 per barrel. It's come up a little bit from the recent lows, but that's par for the course. What do the FIs do? Well, they're selling in cash market, but they're going a little bit excessive actually in the index futures. Yesterday as well, they added close to around 6,000 contracts. They're at around 84% in terms of positioning in percentage terms. And in absolute terms, net short positions of 1.92 lakh contracts. That's the highest that we have seen, even adjusted. You'll have to keep an eye out on that in value terms as well. The FIs aggressively net short, while the clients, they are net long with close to around 1.4 lakh contracts on the long side. Moving to the options data, well, we have the 23,000 call. 23,100 call. Both of them have been fairly active. In yesterday's trading session, you had the 22,900 call as well that was fairly active. While on the downside, you have the 22,900 put that was active. And the premium is around 150 rupees, which perfectly ties in with the numbers that we have been talking about. Upside 23,100, that becomes a bit of a resistance zone. While on the downside, the 22,700, that becomes a bit of your reference point. So that's the broad range you're looking at in terms of a 400-point band. But this buy on dip thesis is going to be tested today. Because as I mentioned at the start of this chat, that on a day-to-day basis, we have moved 0.1%. But every day, off the lows, actually, the markets come off 100, 120, 140, 230 points. So today, given that we're going to start off with a cut of close to around 80 points, as what the gift Nifty is suggesting, that buy on dips thesis is going to be tested. The Nifty Bank yesterday had a bit of an off session, but that was because big boy HDFC Bank was a little off color and there was some delivery-based selling out there. Hopefully, bulk of that is already done. The support, which we have bounced off, 48,800 is important. You don't want to break that mark. We've gone there numerous times in the last 5 sessions, and we have bounced off that mark. While resistance zone, 49,500 to around 50,000, it's important. 20 and 50 DMA out there. So today is going to be important. That buy on dips thesis is going to be tested. And the Nifty has actually underperformed as we've been talking over the last few months. Today, let's see whether or not we have a case to outperform. Let's see how that goes.
Nigel, thanks very much for that. Sometimes, Nigel, what happens is you see one dive back to the lows, that one test, and then we continue on that base building, whatever repair kind of journey. We have to see whether that one test is left or not.
Yeah,
hopefully.
But we've done the test 4 times now. Technically, in the last couple of
So that's
weeks.
the only thing. I mean, if you get to that and then you start to pull back again. And I think then, if anything at the margin, it adds to confidence, irrespective of what the globe is doing, because here the market's already sold off.
Underperform valuations, okay. So it's about...
At least the Nifty.
Surviving that dive.
Imagine if we get green, guys. Imagine if we get like 100 points up today.
Prashant's
Being optimistic.
Prashant
is supporting. I am supporting too.